I recognize this is a little bit different than having a normal conversation because obviously we're spread out, we've got the lights, we've got the camera, but our hope is that we can really capture your stories and have just a wonderful conversation and getting to know one another today. And so just thank you for your willingness to have this conversation. Why don't we start by just maybe sharing your name and a little bit about you, anything that you'd like to share.
Well, I'm Jerry Nixon. I was born here in Lincoln County on St. James Church Road. And I live here and I live also in New Jersey and Connecticut, but it's no place like home.
Hello, I'm Dana Pate. I am the pastor at Motts Grove United Methodist Church and Ebenezer United Methodist Church, which is a neighbor to this great place. And I think for me, being an implant to North Carolina, I'm originally from Oak Hill, West Virginia. And contrary to belief, Loretta Lynn is not the only coal miner's daughter, so am I. So it's just amazing, and I'm very thrilled to be here today.
And I was born and raised here on the east end of Lincoln County, on Ben McLean Lane. I'm a member of Rocky United Methodist Church. I tried moving away for a little bit, but I had to come back to Homestead.
I was born and raised here, and have been across the country and traveled a little bit. But nothing like Denver. It's a great place to live, and have had some experiences here.
Good evening, I'm Bernard Bailey, and I was born in Catawba County, but I grew up in Lincoln County. Moved down here at an early age and hadn't left. So I'm very glad to be here.
Well, so I've only been here for 3 years. So I'm the newbie in the Denver, North Carolina area, although I'm loving it. It's so beautiful. But one of the first questions that we wanted to ask was, if you did grow up here, what was it like growing up in Denver, both as a person of color and then also just in general? How has it changed? What can we learn about your experience growing up in this area, or if you didn't grow up here, just where you did grow up? So again, if you'd like to speak, we'll just get you the mic, and we'd love to share stories.
Well, let me tell you about growing up on the St. James Church Road, known as Little Egypt. First, let's understand why it's good this name, Little Egypt. It's because that's where all the blacks mostly lived after Reconstruction.
Really?
That's where they migrated from Catawba County down to Lincoln County on Little Egypt Road.
So I've driven on that road a million times. Had no idea that was the origin of that name.
That's where the name comes from. All the blacks lived there. They had a man that was the king of Little Egypt. There's nothing moved in Little Egypt unless he gave the approval. And two things every community had was the church and a schoolhouse. The schoolhouse on Little Egypt Road was Liberty Hill. My father went there. My sisters and brothers went there. And it was located right up above where Catawba Spring is today.
Yes.
But every community had so many students to go to school. So the time came there wasn't enough students at Liberty Hill to put a teacher there. So they closed the school down. And the closest school for them to go to was Ebenezer, right down the road.
Okay.
First graders had to walk all the way from St. James Church, all the way to Ebenezer, rain or shine,
Really?
sleet or snow.
So there were no buses or ways?
Wow.
No buses for the blacks.
Really?
Whites rode buses, but they wouldn't put black buses for the black students.
One of my daughters will be in first grade this coming year. And she has trouble walking half a mile before she wants me to pick her up. I can't imagine.
And the school they came to was in Ebenezer Church. One big room, First grade was sit there, second grade here, third grade there, fourth grade there, fifth and sixth like that. Whatever grade you in, one big room, one teacher.
Whoa.
She would teach you a while, then go to that class and get them going, and go to that one, move around in the day. Soon the day will be over. Then you walk 5 miles
5 miles.
back home, rain or shine. See the snow. On the St. James Church Road, even the mailman wasn't coming through the community. If you want to get some mail, you can take your mailbox and place it out here at James Nixon store at Triangle Circle.
So that whole area was just basically excluded from meal service.
That's, yeah. Nothing will happen now on St. James Church Road for blacks.
Wow.
REA wouldn't even bring the power line down St. James Church Road.
So the area didn't have power.
Didn't have power.
While the rest of Denver
There you
started
go.
to.
On the way they got power, REA finally said that the men of the community cut the right of way, cut all the trees out for so many feet that they would strain the wire. So they had to cut their own right of way in order to get electricity.
Wow.
And they finally got it in 1956.
Oh my Lord.
Still no buses. So the buses started in 1948. That was the first time blacks could ride the buses. So okay, so then they closed down Ebenezer, and they all were bused to Tucker's Road. Everything sounds good now, doesn't it? But you can only go as far as the 11th grade. If you want to go to 12th grade and graduate and go to college, you have to leave Denver and go somewhere else.
So I'm tracking correctly. So if you were black in Denver, you were only allowed to go to school up to the 11th grade, but you were not allowed to graduate.
No, correct.
Oh my word. Wow.
Then they finally built the high school in 1952 in Lamberton. And that was the first time blacks could go to the 12th grade.
Was that Newbo?
Newbo, and graduate. Now you say, well, that's all in the past. But that will show you where we came from.
That's right.
The truth is what you need to know. And the truth will set you free.
Yes, it will. So, this thing that we battle, racism, it's a heart disease, right? Your mind can change. Your opinions change. For Brother Nixon, he has seen times change. But everything seemed to always stay the same unless the heart changed. Right? Out of the hearts come the issues of life.
Yes.
So for me, it's amazing that he remembers his school times. That was my story that Jerry took, but I'm going to tell mine anyway. For me, I had to face racism. We've always seen it. The white people would come to our neighborhood and they called the place that black people lived here Little Egypt. For us, it was Harlem Heights. Only black people lived in Harlem Heights. Even on our books, until we had someone to run really for council that would make the changes, it was unlawful for any black person to live within the city limits of Oak Hill, West Virginia.
Really?
Really.
What do you know? When did that change?
It didn't change off the books until 1987.
Whoa.
You hear me? So, even though with us, having your little bus stops turned over because we live in Oak Hill, you're going to go to school, snow up to your hip, the buses put chains on them, they're going to pick you up. But they gave us these little shelters that you could go in to stay out of the cold. And the white people used to run through and turn them over and write derogatory names on them, or they defecate in them or anything. so we couldn't get in the inside of them, right? So again, growing up in this kind of atmosphere, it can set the tone for your whole life. I was in the 3rd grade. I'm 9 years old. And like my mother said, I came out of the womb just knowing everything. That was not a compliment. But our teacher did this play we were putting on for the last day of school. And it was called Me and My Shadow. It was about 9 bears that had 9 shadows. So my teacher, out of the hard come the issues of life, began to call the students up. All the white students, she made bears. And all the black students, she was going to make shadows. You say, oh, that's not bad, it's just a little play. But that's where it starts if you don't catch it, right? So all my little friends, Sheila, you going to be Tracy's shadow? Oh, yeah, you're just happy to be up there. But of course, me, troublemaker, always. Dana, you will go up and you will be the bear to Susan. No. Ma'am, I got manners now. She said, why not? I said, because I can read, I can speak, and I'm not going to be nobody's shadow. So this little beautiful play had 8 polar bears and 1 little black bear with a white shadow because we ran out of kids.
So as a 9-year-old, and you're seeing this happen where...
Right before my eyes, but everybody else is blind to it.
And everyone's being, basically segregated in front of you. What does that do to the 9-year-old mind as you're seeing this happen?
To me, it activated my mind because I was being taught in the home, this is what you can expect.
Yeah.
And by my parents being blatantly honest, not that this is your past not to do the best, not that this is your past that you always got to be second. This I want you to be able to see and recognize, but I want you to know there is no limits to who you are. Right?
Yes.
So she called my mother and I got home and, I'm thinking, oh God, I'm in trouble now. And my mother came running to the door and she threw her arms around my neck and she said, I've never been prouder of you than I have been right now.
Wow.
Because you took a stand when others followed.
Right.
Right where the Catholic Church is right now. Used to be an all-black school. And we left there and went to Rock Springs. Started from 6th grade to the year that I graduated. It's when, I think in the 6th grade is when I first integrated into the white schools.
Okay.
And, there was a big difference. We weren't treated equally. But, our parents basically taught us to try to get along with people. Because they knew we had to try to get an education. So we didn't try to, provoke. We tried to stay away from trouble. But there are times that we were called names. Racism is taught.
Yes,
And during my era, I can remember I worked at the grocery store here in Denver. At one time, Denver only had one grocery store. I remember when I was in high school at East Lincoln, I sung in the choir, and we had a concert down at Bethel. And I remember going to work on Monday, and it was raining outside, and there was a gentleman that came in there, and I was bagging his groceries up. While I was bagging his groceries up, he asked one of the cashiers, which I had went to school with her son, who was those niggas in the church yesterday singing in the choir? And that kind of, I was young at the time, it kind of stung me a little bit,
Sure.
To hear somebody say something like that.
And just right in front of you.
Right.
With a disregard for your presence.
And so, it's just, in being as young as I was, and to hear something like that, it just always stayed with me because, you know, here we are at a church trying to, you know, we went to school, but our school choir sung at that church. And to hear a gentleman say this, you know, it hurt.
Because you see that person, you're going, well, you obviously were in church.
Yeah.
You're a church-going person.
Right.
So, but this is how you view me.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
Wow.
And I also remember one time just working at the grocery store, there was a lady that had left her child unattended, and I was filling some aisles, the grocery shelves, and the little boy looked up at me and said, "Hey, are you a nigger?" You know, and those are kind of things that, you know, have stuck with me because it's taught.
Yes, it is.
You know.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, what you're saying is no one is born with those
Right.
attitudes,
No.
those beliefs, or, Pastor James, you said the heart issues.
Yes.
No one's born with that.
No, no.
Somewhere along the line, you're
Developed.
taught to ask that
Yep.
sort of question.
Yes, sir.
And then one experience I had here, right here in Denver, been here all my life, is one time about 6 months old, my daughter was 6 months old, and Denver used to have a caution light right there where, right in the middle, they didn't have red lights. So
Okay.
they had a caution light.
Yeah.
So right there where Stacy's Restaurant is,
Okay.
then there used to be a service station right across from it, which is there now, but it was different. A gentleman ran that caution light out in front of me, almost caused me to wreck my car, and I blew my horn, and you know, he pulled over on the side, and I didn't think no more about it. So Lowe's used to have a grocery store up at 150 and 16.
Okay.
So anyway, I went there to get some baby formula, and I looked up in my rearview mirror before I even got on 16 and 150 good there to go to Lowe's. There was a guy waving a gun out the window, and he called me every N-word that it was, and I think he would have shot me had people not been out in the parking lot. Just because I blew my horn out at him. He was drinking, he didn't have a shirt on, and, you know, he was just, I guess he didn't take it well that a black person blew his horn at him, trying to correct him from having an accident, hit me, and so he just called me the N-word. But it's I don't know if we will ever be able to change the hearts and minds of some people in the United States of America. One thing I found out since I've been on this earth, that you can't make anybody like you. You can't do that. So we can't make people like us just because of the color of our skins. And, you know, we've been told all our lives to try to get along with people and do the best you can. And I even had people have asked, you know, why is there so many blacks on St. James Church Road? Well, just like Jerry said, that's because it was the only place they could buy a property at one time in Lincoln County. Jerry, he's a historian. Blacks couldn't buy property anywhere in Lincoln County. You know, so it has the eastern part of the county has a lot of history with African Americans, and now you're seeing it. There's a rarity here in Lincoln County now because so many people are moving in because of the lake.
Sure.
And I'm afraid that there aren't going to be a lot more African Americans be able to live here because of the cost of living. Even some of the ones that are still here may be pushed out one day.
I can remember one story. My sister came home. We was in high school. She made the tennis team. And she knows that there wasn't that many blacks to play tennis. But they had to practice because East Lincoln, they had a tennis court, but it wasn't that great. But they moved them over here to Counts Forward, the golf course. And they had a sign, no blacks allowed.
Right there at Cowan's Ford.
Yeah, right here at Counts Forward. And the sad part about it was I middle school principal. His duty was to come and tell them that they had to leave the tennis court because my sister was the only black on the team. Just because she needed to practice and she was with the high school team, they had to go. They made them leave. They
So
could
no
not
one
practice there.
could watch your sister practice.
It wasn't watching her practice. She couldn't practice,
But they,
period.
they would not even allow your sister, who's on the tennis team,
Who's on the team
to practice.
because of the color of her skin. So, and it stuck with, to this day, she talks about that. I had a cousin that stayed in this apartment complex. And I was walking to her apartment. And there was a little kid, he couldn't have been no more than 4 years old. And I understand that he called himself being nice. He hollered down there, "Hey, nigger." I kept walking, I paid no attention. He said it again, "Hey, nigger." And his dad was sitting on the front porch. His dad hollered up there and told him he was going to whoop him if he didn't be quiet. I told that man, I said, "Don't you bother that child. That child is calling me what you told him I was." If his dad had never told him that black folks was niggas, he wouldn't have said, "Hey, nigga." He would have hollered down at it like he would at anyone else and said, "How are you doing?"
That's right.
But what he was told I was, that's what he called me.
Growing up, I can remember when it was harvest time. We all harvest our crops. We all did our cows, we did our pigs. But everything that was left over, we went down to Callaway's on 16, and everybody cooked up everything that was left, and we had a feast. We did that every year. As being in school, everything was fine. We went to school from kindergarten to 6th grade. When they stuck us in the middle school, then they started busing people from Lincoln County, I guess West Lincoln, all them different, that's where everything changed.
That's it.
Well, and we're having this conversation in a church. So what is the role of church or faith in making sure that it stops, with this next generation, that it doesn't continue to be taught? What is the role of church?
The heart is the problem.
That's right.
Now, we're not talking about the heart that everything going on. We're talking about the soul of a person.
Yes.
Now, priests got a awful responsibility what they preach in their church. Now, somebody telling like the Bible says, I don't know who, but somebody that misconstrued what the gospel is about. You got to have renewal of the mind. You get that change. As long as your mind don't change, you're going to remain the same.
Because you're saying it's all right there in Scripture, how
Yeah.
God sees all of us, but that's not necessarily being taught in all churches.
He's not.
We've come a long ways in this country, but we are looking now and at what has happened in America with the turning back the time, with the things that's going on now as we speak today. It's because of a lot of it has to do with church. We've got preachers today. We've got millions of Bibles, hundreds and thousands of churches in the United States of America. But yet, there's lies being told. There's been lies told in this country. We look at what happened in this last, and I'm not talking politics.
Sure.
In this last election. It's a lie. And the church is letting this lie stand. Whenever pastors don't stand up and tell the truth, tell the congregations to tell the truth, then we have issues.
Yes.
America will never heal itself until the church tells the truth, until the church steps up and say we're sick and tired.
So you're saying, because so many churches say, those conversations, they're political. We don't want to get involved in that. But what you're saying is none of this is going to change until the church decides to lead.
The church has to, the pastors has to tell the truth to the people that they're ministering to.
Yes.
It has to come from him.
Yes.
The word doesn't change. We can line Bibles up from here to California, from here to China, from here to Africa. The word's the same. God's words, I am the same yesterday, today, and forever.
As I'm sitting and listening to all of this, the main fact still remains that Sunday is the most segregated hour ever.
Yes.
And we have spent our lifetime being segregated during that time, right? And until we begin to see God as being the God who he is, that is of no color, we're never going to get past this. Because whether I sing Negro spirituals or you sing hymns or whatever, the word said it's one Lord, one faith, and one baptism.
Yes.
That's not based on color.
That's right. That's right.
No, you might not sing like me. I might not sing like you. But if we are here with the right motivation that we are here for God, color has to go out of the window on both sides.
That's right. So schools have largely been segregated, but as you've just stated, church has not. Church continues to be segregated. Why?
Because I think after post-Civil War, when it was illegal, before that, masters used to take their slaves with them to church. After the Civil War, we don't want you here no more. You go find your other. Right? So then when we began to find our own God, as we say, we began to find our own place. You don't want us here, we don't want to be here. It is what it is, get with it. For me to be the first African American business office manager for a hospital that was the only hospital that would take black people in Beckley, West Virginia. It was called the Old Miners Hospital because the coal mines had so many black people working in them that they said, we got to get these people a hospital.
Wow.
Because we couldn't go to Oak Hill Hospital. It was whites only. In my land of the living, in my generation.
Yes, right.
And then for me to walk through those doors as the person responsible for $28 million that has to circulate for everybody here you see to get paid.
Right.
For me to sit in this seat where we had to come here because this was our only resort, it meant something to me.
Yes.
So when we can open doors, when we can go places that our ancestors was barred from, where we can be in a room like this to make a change, it has to go beyond talking. We got to put action to this. If it means sometime you coming at Ebenezer, me coming to here, our people need to see that we serve a colorless God.
Amen.
And if we would do more of this, we can get what my brother Stanley is talking about. The truth will be told. You would not only see me as, this black female pastor that pastors Ebenezer. You see me as a woman of God. God has chosen to deliver the word. When you come there, they don't see you as the white pastor that is preaching at Unity Presbyterian Church. They see you of a man of God that is bringing the word of God.
Pastor Dana, I want you to consider this your invitation. We want
Pastor
you to
David, consider this your invitation. Because before we can start doing this, before we can break this mold that you go here and you go here, because of the color of our skins, we're never going to get past this.
That's right.
Because as Jerry has said, when I say of the heart, I'm talking to the soul of man.
Yes.
And until that spiritual soul is fed good food, It's going to be just like it is today, walking around malnourished, walking around ignorant, thank you, brother, walking around still holding to the past.
Yes.
What are we doing? Stanley said the church was the center. Jerry said there's always the church and the school that was the center of the neighborhood.
Yes.
The question is to us, what is the church is doing?
That's right.
Are we still in our little 11 o'clock, 11:30, 9 o'clock? Hello, God bless you, blessed and highly favored, and we going our way? We can't expect change if we're not going to be a part of it.
So you're echoing Stanley, the church has to lead in this conversation.
And tell the truth. Right?
That's right.
You want rainbows and Skittles. There's a lot of people give you that. But in this day and time, we need fire and brimstone. I need to know what I need to do so I can see Jesus in these. And there's no color on that.
That's right.
He's not going to say you were black, so I held you to this standard. You were white, so I hold you to this standard. No, the Bible is the Bible, right, brother? It don't change.
He's going to say you're a child of God.
Bingo.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. This is an important conversation, and what I'm walking away with is the church has to lead. And so the church will lead. So let's let this conversation be a springboard into just further conversations and action, as you guys have so gracefully said. Thank you so much.